Hello there, beautiful friend. I cannot believe we are in June already. Time feels like it is just flying by. And that is actually what I want to talk about today. I got a request to talk about life, which is so broad. And so you're going to get a little bit more of a stream of consciousness version of me today in this episode. I try for the most part to have these episodes feel structured and help reduce the chaos, because I'm assuming that's a big part of why you are in my world and you listen to this podcast weekly, because it feels so good to have that structure and to reduce the chaos that is all around us. But this episode might feel a little bit more chaotic than usual. So we're just going to go with it. But I am, of course, going to tie it back to organizing and talk about why organizing really is the foundation of a good life. The older I get, the more quickly time feels like it's passing. And I've thought about this because in some way, in a mathematical way, it is true, because every second, minute, hour of our life is a smaller percentage of the time that we have lived. And it feels really small and quick, but every moment is actually so big, because it is all we have right now. This moment, nothing else is guaranteed. And I want us to really make the best of it. We get one shot at this, and it's not a dress rehearsal. So how can we show up in a way that we look back on our lives and say, I did it. I actually did all the things that I wanted to do. I lived up to my full potential. I have a magnet that I keep in my desk drawer that one of my friends gifted to me. And it has a Lucille Ball quote on it that says, "I'd rather regret the things I've done than regret the things I haven't done." And for those of us who are people pleasers or perfectionists or suffer from anxiety, or even who have a big light to shine, but have been taught to dim our light, it can feel really hard to live a big, full life. It's so much easier to play small. But in the playing small, it is actually so painful. We don't get to experience our full joy. And I have been through some stuff. I've talked a lot still about anxiety, because it is still something that I struggle with. I haven't really talked at all, I don't think, about depression, because it's not something, fortunately, that I am currently grappling with. But I have had seasons of my life where that has been the defining characteristic. So I know full well what it feels like to run the gamut, to feel like showing up and living our best life is not at all in our control, and what it feels like to know that it is fully in our control. And I have been blessed to be around people that have been able to have all the things that they thought they wanted. And I learned a very powerful lesson at a very young age, that no matter how many external accolades or external things you accomplish, they are not going to make you happy unless you are already happy inside. If you lose those last 10 pounds and you think that will be the thing that makes you happy, and then you lose them and you're no happier, that's what I'm talking about. It's why you see so many people that are so wealthy who are not happy, because the money itself doesn't make you happy. And then you realize that it really is so much about the inner work. Now, here is something fun that I have discovered, though. If you do the inner work and you do become happy, then yeah, losing those last 5, 10 pounds does feel good. You feel sexier. And making more money does feel good because then you can go do more things that you want to do. You have more options. You have more choices. So I believe, and I have seen that when you are happy, these external things can enhance your happiness, but they will not be the thing that makes you happy. You have to do the inner work to get there first. And no surprise, friend, believe it or not, getting organized is one process that I have seen that really does make us happier. It really does. I have never met anyone that has done the work to declutter and get organized that doesn't feel better or happier in a sustainable way, much more so than losing 5 pounds will do for you. And the reason for that is because the process itself makes us feel so accomplished, and it is very calming. I've shared in the past all the research around the ways that it literally reduces cortisol levels to when we declutter, but also when we live in a home that's organized. So there is science to it. And then the reality is you have reduced so many pain points and friction points in your life when you get organized that there's just less to be annoyed with and more to feel happy about. And when you do that, it doesn't cure your mental illness. It's not going to cure your anxiety and your depression, but what it does do is make you feel a little better, and better enough that you have the time and energy to start making the bigger changes that really will have that necessary impact on your mental health. And I have seen for some people that getting organized is enough of the thing to really transform their mental health. But if you get organized and you still feel like you need support and help, you didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just, we are all on a spectrum of the impact that things will have on us. But truly getting organized is the fast track to the life we want. And it is so much easier to deal with our physical items, to really start there and flex that muscle that then allows us to get rid of our mental clutter and our toxic thought patterns and our relationships. And we suddenly find ourselves with no more excuses and the time and energy to do what we want. And we learn through this process that we are so much stronger than we think. I am sure you've heard this before, but this really sticks with me, and it goes along with the quote that I shared, that hospice nurses have shared that one of the biggest regrets of the dying is not living fully as who they wanted to be. They spent their lives living in a way that they thought others wanted them to be and showing up as others wanted them to be and not fully embracing who they are. And I feel like I did that for many years. Not to say I didn't live a big life and that I didn't have adventures and that I didn't accomplish some really great things. But I look back on those years, my teen years and my early 20s, and realize just how many of the choices I was making because I had this concept in my own mind of what I thought success and happiness would look like. And very little of that actually came from inside, from the things that would truly make me happy. And I've spent the latter part of my 30s and definitely my 40s really leaning into building the life that I want to build. And part of that is really being brave and not letting the voice of my anxiety scare me off from doing the things that still do feel scary, but really trying to show up in a much bigger way. With the women that I coach in my business coaching programs, I share this phrase all the time, and it's applicable in life as well. It's this question, but did you die? Because when we think about the really primal part of ourselves that feels fear and doesn't want to show up, there is that piece of us that in the back of our mind feels like, oh my God, if I do this and if it goes wrong, I'm going to die. But the truth is, even if the worst thing happens, even if you fall flat on your face, even if you are embarrassed, even if you put yourself out there and it is not received well, you can survive that. You will not die. And if you didn't die, that means you can brush yourself off, you can pick yourself up, and you can try again. One of the beautiful things about getting older is that you care so much less, if really at all, what people think about you who don't actually know you. And you care so much more about what you think about yourself. And that is super powerful. I think a lot about life. I've been told that I think about it more so than the average person. And what is amazing about that is that every day I wake up thinking, how can I make this day better than the last day? How can I maximize this day? And that is a super motivating way to show up in the world because it makes me want to take full advantage of all of the opportunities that are presented to me. And I think a lot about how each day lived makes you one day older and closer to the end of your life. But the downside of always thinking about that is that it can put a pressure on showing up in a certain way, but it also can give you an anxiety about thinking about like, well, when is it going to end? So you do really have to find the balance of bringing a deep intention into your days, but also like, it's not that serious. In the words of the Indigo Girls, it's only life after all, right? So how can we really bring intention to our days, live fully up to our potential, but have fun and be happy? What are the things that you need to feel super filled up inside, to feel really happy, so that when you do go after some of those external things that you might be chasing, they actually bring you the happiness or increase the happiness that you already have. Or, and what I see often is some people realize I actually don't need or want those things anymore anyway, now that I've already cultivated this happiness inside. And the biggest recipe for trying to really distill what will make you happy is starting by getting yourself organized, stripping your physical belongings of all the things that are weighing you down. I believe that the perfect amount of stuff for us to own is enough that we feel centered and grounded in our homes and our lives, but not weighed down. And when we start decluttering and getting rid of all the things that are weighing us down, but I'm not saying sell all your possessions and become a nomad. For some of you, that might feel really exciting. For others, like myself, that's not what I'm seeking. I do want to have my feet planted on the ground. I do want to have a home and roots, but I don't ever want to feel weighed down by it. I want to feel the safety and security of it. And when you start getting rid of all the things in your life that don't make you happy, the physical belongings, the negative thought patterns, the toxic relationships, you feel so much lighter and you get a certain level of clarity around what actually does make you happy. And you might, I did a whole episode on this. You might be the paradox of time, but you might be left with the question mark of what do I want? But now you have the time and energy to actually figure that out. There is so much sadness and pain and suffering in the world, including our own. And we have to open our eyes to it and we have to speak up. And we have to choose to focus on the beauty and the love, even in all of the mundane moments. And what we have to realize is how much of our unhappiness is caused by our own limitations, our own belief patterns. Because what is incredible about realizing how much of our unhappiness is due to ourselves is that we have 100% control over what we think and what we do. Susie Moore, who was one of my earliest business mentors, I heard her say recently, we can't choose the first thought that pops into our head, but we can always choose the second thought. And I found this so liberating because I think for a while, you listen to all these self-help books and you follow these self-help gurus and you start feeling like, I need to have clarity of thought. I need to have positive thoughts initially. And the reality is we can't always control that first thought. We can do the inner work so that our immediate go-to thoughts are more positive than negative, but that's hard, especially when you've been through some stuff and there's a lot of things that need to be undone. There's past trauma. There's, all these thought patterns that are hard to change. But what we can always do is immediately recognize that first thought that pops into our head and choose to have a more positive thought. And that feels super empowering. One of my favorite quotes is by Esther Hicks. And she said, a happy life is just a string of happy moments. But most people don't allow the happy moment because they're so busy trying to get a happy life. That is so powerful. How many times have you thought, I just want a happy life. I just want to create a happy life. And what we don't realize is that every happy moment strung together is a happy life. That's it, friends. So how can we bring more happiness to every single moment? How can we choose that second thought? How can we become this happy person by stringing together happy moments, happy events, happy relationships, right? We have control over that. And a big piece of this is living in the moment. As my children get older, I realize more and more how important it is to be present. There were many, many years where I just wished the day away. It was too hard. And I don't regret that. I am not going to lie. And as your kids get older, it gets hard in much more important ways, even though it's hard to hear because we think, oh, they'll just get older and it will get easier. That's not what happens. But I am no longer wishing away any of the moments because you realize that this is it. This is life. And being fully present is so important and what allows us to connect to our happiness even more. I believe in energetics and connection, and that when we raise our vibration, we invite others around us to do the same. And it's not like magic. It's not like you show up in a great energy and the people around you automatically do. But what you realize very quickly is who's going to match your vibration and who are you going to allow into your energetic space and who is just not, and who are you just no longer going to have time for. And you have complete control over that. So the big takeaway, like really the only one big takeaway that I want you to walk away from this episode is don't go unconscious with your life. Own what you deserve and make choices that align with that. That is it. Because I could talk for hours and hours and hours about all of the lessons that I've learned in life and what's made me happier and the importance of getting organized. But each of us has to define for ourselves what is going to make us happy. Because if you stepped into somebody else's shoes, like you literally were able to walk into their body, I think you'd learn one of two things. One, that person actually is not as happy as you think they are from the outside. That's one possibility. Or if they truly are that happy, you might realize that their life of happiness that they built is not what makes you happy at all. Because nobody else's recipe is going to be the exact thing that brings happiness to your life. So look around for inspiration for sure. and look around for motivation, but don't look around for comparison, because somebody else's exact formula for happiness is not going to be yours. So, like I said, don't go unconscious with your life. Bring consciousness and awareness to what you're doing, and then create the life that you deserve and that you love. And all the areas that you are not happy with, recognize what pieces of that you have control over to make changes, and start making those changes today. And I want to leave you again with my favorite quote, because it is so potent. A happy life is just a string of happy moments, but most people don't allow the happy moment because they're so busy trying to get a happy life. So friends, let's go after looking for as many of those happy moments that we can. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.